Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for your kind association. Please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha. पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने. नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, dear devotees, we are continuing our study of Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 4, entitled Shri Sati Devi Quits Her Body, Text 28. Again, Srimad Bhagavatam 4.4.28. Tat Pashyatam Khe Bhuvi Chadbhutam Mahad Ha Heti Vadaha Sumahanajayata Hanta Priya Daivata Masya Devi Jahavasunke Nasati Prakopita. Translations and purports by His Divine Grace, Shri Srimad Abhay Charana Arvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Translation. When Shri Sati Devi annihilated her body in anger, there was a tumultuous roar all over the universe. Why had Sati, the wife of the most respectable demigod, Lord Shiva, quit her body in such a manner? So we are reading how Sri Sati Devi, against the advice of her glorious husband, Lord Shiva, she went to her father's place to attend the festivities. Daksha Prajapati was performing a sacrifice and had many guests, and Sati Devi went there to socialize with her relatives and sisters and mother. And there she realized how much envy and hatred Daksha had for her husband, Lord Shiva. So she became very unhappy. She chastised her father, and in anger, because her body had been produced from the body of Daksha, being his biological daughter, she decided to give up her body. And she went into a yogic trance. Through the power of her yoga, she increased the fire element in the body and self immolated her just by her yogic meditation and yogic mystic perfection. When Sri Sati Devi died in this way, everyone was very shocked. Everyone was astonished. How could this happen? Why did she die? She is Lord Shiva's Ardhangini, half the body of Lord Shiva. How could she quit her body in this way? There was a tumultuous roar all over the universe. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says there was a tumultuous roaring all over the universe in the societies of the demigods of different planets, because Shri Sati Devi was the daughter of Daksha, the greatest of all kings, and she was the wife of Lord Shiva, the greatest of all demigods. So it was a great cause of shock and concern all over the world, all over the universe. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says further down, if one can develop unflinching love for the transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, that can give complete satisfaction. Otherwise, there is no possibility of satisfaction in the material world or anywhere. None of our material relationships can give us lasting pleasure, Srila Prabhupada is writing. He says there was nothing Sati could not achieve, either from her relationship with her father or her husband, who was the greatest demigod. But still, this material nature is such, my dear friends, that Sati was so frustrated, so heartbroken, that she decided to end her life. Hare Krishna. Which means material world is such a dangerous place that it can defeat the most fortunate person. It can frustrate the most resourceful person. It can devastate the most well connected person. We see Sati was so well placed, so fortunate in so many ways. Yet, in this material world, she was placed in a situation where she could not bear to live any longer. Hare Krishna. Therefore, Lord Krishna says this material world is a place of misery, dukhalaya. Text 29. Aho anatmyam mahadasya pashyata prajapateryasya characharam praja jahavasun vimatatmaja sati manasvinimanamabhikshanam. It was astonishing that Daksha, who was Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, was so disrespectful to his own daughter Sati, who was not only chaste but also a great soul, that she gave up her body because of this neglect from her father. Hare Krishna. See, the lesson that Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching us from this incident, historical narration, is that our personal ego can become such an impediment that we may fail to perform our most essential duties because of this impediment caused by our own bloated up false ego, prestige, arrogance, pride. Daksha was so proud, so arrogant that he placed his false ego over and above his own little daughter, his youngest, dearest daughter. Such is the nature of false ego, such is the nature of anger. We may become negligent, neglectful, we may hurt beyond imagination even those who are closest to us if we allow our false ego, our pride to get the better of us. This is what we all can learn from Srimad Bhagavatam. Our scriptures speak a lot about controlling the mind because uncontrolled mind is our greatest Shatru, enemy. Therefore, Krishna consciousness means to control the mind. That is why great saints have written books addressing the mind. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has written Shri Mana Shiksha, lessons to the mind. Shri Govinda Kaviraj also writes Bhaja Mana. So, instructing our mind, controlling our mind, disciplining our mind is most essential for any spiritualist. Here, Daksha had lost control over his mind and intelligence because of uncontrolled pride, envy, false ego. He hated Lord Shiva because he considered Lord Shiva to be inferior to him. And how dare he not stand up when I enter the assembly? How dare he not offer me respectful obeisances? He was so arrogant that he hated Lord Shiva. And because of that hatred, he was willing, more than willing, to hurt anyone intimately connected with Lord Shiva. He cursed Lord Shiva and he neglected his own dear daughter who was a guest in his house. He hurt her so bad that she decided to give up all connection with her own father by giving up her own body. This is the nature of ego. This is the nature of hatred. There have been instances where people with uncontrolled pride and arrogance and false ego have not had any qualms about murdering their own loved ones. Aurangzeb is one such example. He imprisoned his own father and murdered his own brothers. And there are many such examples throughout history. Few couple of decades ago, there was an incident where someone from the royal family murdered several members of his own family with a rifle just because they wouldn't allow him to marry the girl of his choice. And then he put a bullet into his own head also after the massacre. Hare Krishna. Mind control is essential, my dear friends. Having a good temperament, having control over the mind, having control over the urge of anger, having control over the impulse of false ego when it wants to explode is essential if we want to make spiritual progress. Adanta gobhir vishatam tamisram punah punascharvita charvananam. Shri Prahlad Maharaj says, if we are adanta gobhir, go means senses, adanta means uncontrolled. If we have uncontrolled senses, uncontrolled mind, no control over eating, no control over eyes, what we want to watch, no control over our skin, who we want to touch and embrace, uncontrolled senses, vishatam tamisram, will make us enter into a hell called tamisra. Adanta gobhir vishatam tamisram punah punascharvita charvanana. And we will be stuck in this material world again and again tasting that what we have already tasted. Even birds mate, even dogs mate. And then we get a human life, and that's what we want to do again and again. Hare Krishna. The death of Sati because of her being neglected by Daksha, her father, was most astonishing to all the great demigods of the universe. A person who is under the influence of anger or false ego may not realize what they are doing. But others who are outside of that situation may be able to see, especially if those individuals are sober. Therefore, it is good to ask for unbiased feedback, and we should have such a relationship with our trusted friends or our family members or our advisors or our mentors that we should be able to ask them for honest feedback even when we are angry. I'm really angry and frustrated, but can you please tell me if what I'm doing is right or wrong? And the relation should be such that the trusted person who we are asking should feel comfortable telling us honest yes or honest no. Because sometimes we are so angry that the person may not feel comfortable saying something that we don't want to hear. So it's important to have advisors who speak for our welfare. Ravan had one such advisor, Vibhishan. His advice was always difficult to take. Ravan did not like it. And finally, Ravan and Indrajit kicked Vibhishan out because they could no longer bear to hear his good counsel. Similarly, there was King Dhritarashtra, who used to receive excellent advice from Shri Vidur, and he also could not accept that advice in the right spirit. And Duryodhan could not even tolerate to hear it, what to speak of following or accepting that advice. So he insulted Vidur in such a way that Vidur had to also leave. There are a lot of parallels between Vidur and Vibhishan. Both were in a compromised situation because their leaders were of a very evil character. They had nefarious plans, and both Vidur and Vibhishan advised their leaders against doing what they wanted to do, but no cognizance was ever taken whenever they would bring up issues. Oh, my dear King Dhritarashtra, don't you realize Duryodhan and Shakuni are inviting Yudhishthir Maharaj for a game of gambling? But this is just a conspiracy, this is just a plot to cheat him of all the wealth he has earned during the Rajasuya Yajna. Duryodhan is burning with envy when he saw all the gifts that Yudhishthir Maharaj received. Different kings who came to attend the Rajasuya Yajna gave him bullock carts filled with gold coins, precious gems, rarest jewels, and he just wants to cheat him and get everything from Yudhishthir. That's why he's calling him. Don't you see it? Please do not invite Yudhishthir for this gambling game. No, no, Vidur. Duryodhan said, if I don't invite, then he will fast. He will be heartbroken. I cannot break the heart of my son. He gave in. So sometimes we may not like the advice of our genuine well wishers. Vibhishan told Ravan that, my dear brother, it is very easy to find yes men in this world. Very easy to find people who will just massage your ego. Very easy to find people who will condone all your nefarious activities. Very difficult to find a true friend who will not shirk their responsibility and shy away from giving the right guidance when we need it, even though those words might be extremely unpalatable because of our attachment. But fortunate are those who have such unbiased advisors. Hare Krishna. Text 30. Soyam durmarsharidayo brahmadrukcha loke pari ki pakirtim mahatim avapsyati yad angajam swam purusha dvid utyatam na pratyashedhan mritaye paradhata. Daksha, who is so hard hearted that he is unworthy to be a Brahman, will gain extensive ill fame because of his offenses to his daughter, because of not being, because of not having prevented her death, and because of his great envy of the Supreme Personality of God. Hare Krishna. You see, Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching us here that one offense, one aparad, gives birth to another aparad. Because after committing an offense, we continue to harbor that offensive mentality. And offenses are self perpetuating. One aparad will give rise to another aparad, unless and until some corrective steps are taken and we undergo a process of atonement and rectification. Without atonement and rectification, the offensive nature will continue and we will become serial offenders. Daksha, unfortunately, has become a serial offender. He first offended Lord Shiva. Then he offended Lord Brahma by saying, "It is this Brahma who made me give my daughter Sati in marriage to this Lord Shiva." He found fault in his own father, Lord Brahma. And now he's committing an offense toward his own daughter, Sati. Offenses are of two types: offense by commission and offense by omission. Daksha committed offense by commission against Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma by speaking insults at them, by hurling false accusations at them, and Daksha committed offense by omission, by omitting to acknowledge his daughter who had come to him as a guest with great expectation. All she wanted was few kind words for her and her husband. That's all. But Daksha did not give, and therefore he committed offense of omission. Both are serious offenses. Daksha is described here as most hard hearted. And it is our offenses and repeated sins that make us hard hearted, my dear friends. It's exactly like a MMA fighter or a karate fighter when they hit the punching bag repeatedly, or they hit some brick or some wooden plank repeatedly when they are practicing. Their skin becomes thick and desensitized. It's called callus. Similarly, we become callous in our behavior. We become hard hearted in our behavior when we repeatedly offend people. A person may hurt someone verbally and then repent, feel guilty, anutap, and cry. A person may physically hurt somebody and repent and cry. But someone who has become very, very callous, very desensitized, very hard hearted, like the callus is hard, the heart also becomes hard because of repeated offenses, repeated sins. The terrorists who kill people, they actually laugh about it. They can eat biryani and go to sleep after murdering people, murdering women, murdering old people who could not run fast enough, murdering small children, gunning down people who were defenseless. And they feel absolutely no remorse. Why? Because they have become hard hearted. Therefore, my dear friends, a Vaishnav is soft hearted. दुखिया को न रुलाओ, ये दुखिया देगा रोए, और दुखिया के जब मुखिया देखे तेरी गति क्या होए. A Vaishnav may cry. A Vaishnav may be very, very soft hearted. And one should not take advantage of the soft hearted nature of a Vaishnav, the mild temperament of a Vaishnav. One should not take advantage of that. Because when the Vaishnav cries, दुखिया के जब मुखिया देखे तेरी गति क्या होए. When the Lord of the Vaishnav sees, when Sri Krishna sees how the devotee is being hurt, humiliated, ill-treated, then Krishna takes it in his own hands and justice is done. Hare Krishna. So we should make sure that our heart remains soft. It is good to feel repentance. It is good to feel remorse. It is good to feel regret. It is good to cry. But it is not good to become hard hearted. Sometimes people cultivate hard heartedness because they feel to live in this world, you have to be hard hearted. It's a dog eat dog world. The problem is you will remain in the dog eat dog world, you will never get Krishna. Therefore, it is our first duty to protect our heart. When negative emotions, negative thoughts enter the heart, we should deal with them right away. Protect the heart. Don't let ill feelings enter the heart. Act on it. Daksha failed to do that, and therefore he became hard hearted. He's called Brahmadruk, means Brahma Bandhu. He's simply a pretend Brahman. He's not a real Brahman. He has no Brahminical qualification, Srila Prabhupada explains. Srila Prabhupada also says that Daksha means expert, and he was given this name because of his ability to beget many hundreds and thousands of children. He was a Prajapati. His service was to produce children, and Daksha was very expert in producing children. So he was called expert. Daksha means expert. Persons who are too sexually inclined and materialistic become so hard hearted because of a slight loss of prestige that they can tolerate even the death of their own children, Srila Prabhupada says. They can tolerate death even of their own loved ones. They become so hard hearted. And Daksha is a glaring example of that. Text 31. Vadat evam jane satya drishtva sutyagamad daksham tat parshada hantum udatishtan udayudha. While people were talking among themselves about the wonderful voluntary death of Sati, the attendants who had come with her readied themselves to kill Daksha with their weapons. Hare Krishna. These things have a snowball effect. One should be very careful and mindful about snowball effect. Things don't happen in isolation in this world, my dear friends. Every action we do, it has repercussions. Like I said, offenses have their own way of becoming self perpetuating. Eye for an eye, slap for a slap, and it goes on and on and on. It all started with Daksha offending Lord Shiva. Then Nandishwar offended or counter cursed Daksha and his followers. May the followers not be successful in their yajna. Then Daksha said, may Lord Shiva not get any share in the yajna. When Nandishwar cursed, then Bhrigu said that may the followers of Lord Shiva become atheistic. In this way, cursing, counter cursing was going on. This is how this material world works. One act of aggression will produce more acts of aggression. And then you hit back, and then you hit back, and then it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Same thing happens between countries. Same things happen between gangs. Same things happen between individual. Even individual husband-wife relationship, sibling relationship. One act that has been perceived as offensive will be met with another offense. And when the other person sees that offense, then they act more offensively. And then we retaliate with another act of aggression, active aggression or passive aggression, which is also retaliated. And then it just becomes a never ending saga between individuals, between communities, between religious groups, between countries. Pakistan does something, India does something. Pakistan does something, India does something. Israel does something, Palestine does something. Israel does something, Palestine does something. Hindus do something, Muslims do something. Hindus, Muslim, Hindu, back and forth, back like a ping pong ball. Never stops. Hare Krishna. That's just the nature of this world, my dear friends. What to do? It's very complex. There are no easy answers. But whoever does the first act of aggression will have to face more consequences. And whoever shows maturity tolerance for a higher cause will be recognized by Krishna. Hare Krishna. So now what has happened is Sati has died. But remember the followers of Lord Shiva who had accompanied Sati Devi. Now they are very angry that Sati has died and they want revenge. And their revenge is the death of Daksha. They wanted to kill Daksha. It is the duty, Srila Prabhupada writes, it is a duty of attendants to give protection to their master, and in case of failure, it is their duty to die. The attendants who came with Sati were meant to protect her from calamities, but since they were unable to protect their master's wife, they decided to die for her. And before dying, they want to kill Daksha. Hare Krishna. So this is the nature of this material world, my dear friends. We should just do our best, use our intelligence, try to make things better in this world, but without attachment, knowing that the prognosis is inevitably grave. Hare Krishna. Grave in both the senses, in both the meanings. Grave means very serious prognosis, grim prognosis, and grave also means death. Ultimately, everybody has to die in this world. This lok is called Martyalok, the place of death. So therefore, we should do our best, but we should try not to get attached to this world and keep our sights fixed on the spiritual world where we originally belong, being spiritual entities. That's where we belong. Because we are Atma, we belong to the Adhyatmic Jagat. Being spirit souls, we belong to the spiritual world, not this material world. Hare Krishna. So I'll stop here, dear devotees. It's past 9:30. Does anyone have any questions or anything? Thank you for tolerating me. And I will see you day after tomorrow. Hopefully, day after tomorrow, I will be at home by this time. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna. Let me unmute all of you so I can hear your lotus voices. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you
Hare
so much,
Krishna.
Devotees.
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
Pranam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pranam.